crisscrossing the continent, shaking hands, and at times showing his teeth.
We want to have a Europe where we're not subsumed into a superstate, but we can be proud and independent.
David Cameron has ploughed on with his efforts to secure reform of the EU. Concessions which he hopes will convince his country to stay in the Union on its own terms.
We want a Europe that is competitive. We want a Europe that respects our currency and treats us fairly.
But behind the scenes and in front of the cameras, experts have begun to lay the taboos on the table, acting out here how a British exit or Brexit would play out in complex negotiations. And it isn't pretty.
It is not as if the 1st of July you're out. No, you would be out once you come to an agreement with the European Union.
Norman said the euro is self-evidently a disaster.
You are not going to be saved in a kind of Noah Ark.
This is an absolutely devastating decision that Britain has taken.
The EU is the UK's biggest export market, taking in about 44% of its goods and services every year. But that share has been dwindling over the past decade. What's more is that the UK runs a deficit with Europe and a trade surplus with other faster-growing economies, which is why some suggest the nation could afford to go it alone.
You have people at either end of the debate, some desperate to leave, some desperate to stay. Most people trying to find what is actually in Britain's long-term interest.
But leaving the EU could cost the country dear, up to 3% of its GDP according to some surveys, as free trade deals become void and tariffs return. Goldman Sachs, for one, reckons the pound could plunge 20%. For the rest of the EU, a UK departure wouldn't just mean lost growth. It could set a dangerous precedent for others eyeing up the exit door.
Brexit is dangerous because it will be the first time that the right to secession will occur, but it's a bad signal.
Which means either way, this referendum won't just redefine Britain's relationship with its neighbours, but test the ties that bind the entire bloc. Nina Dos Santos, CNN Money, London.